Hello, and welcome back to the British Accent Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Nick. Today, we're asking a slightly different kind of question, one that's more about mindset than grammar. What if learning English was seen the same way we see learning to dance, or paint, or play music?
Because think about it. When someone picks up a paintbrush for the first time, no one expects them to be perfect. No one says, "You made a mistake, you're terrible at this." It's understood that creativity is messy. That growth takes time.
Exactly. There's space for expression. For joy. For getting it wrong, and getting it right later. But with language learning, especially English, there's often this pressure, like if you're not fluent or accurate right away, you're failing.
And that's such a shame. Because learning a language is so much like learning an art form. It's personal. It's emotional. And it's never really about being perfect, it's about being able to connect. To express. To feel something while you speak.
So in this episode, we want to play with that idea. What changes if we treat English like something artistic, something human, flexible, creative? What happens when we stop chasing perfection and start exploring expression?
Because when you think about it, artists don't create to impress. Not at first. They create because something inside them needs to come out. It's not about getting every color right, it's about saying something real, in their own way.
Exactly. And it's the same with dancers. No one expects their first steps to be smooth or controlled. They wobble. They lose rhythm. But that's part of it. That's how you grow. Through movement. Through feeling.
So why is it so different with English? Why do we expect our first sentences to sound polished? Why do we feel embarrassed when our grammar slips, even though we're still trying to express something honest?
Maybe it's because we've been taught to see language as a test. Something you pass or fail. But the truth is, most of the time, communication isn't about correctness, it's about connection.
And if you think about the people you enjoy talking to the most, it's rarely the ones who speak perfectly. It's the ones who speak authentically. Who sound like they mean what they say. Who aren't afraid to be a little imperfect.
That's why we love this idea of English as art. Because art makes room for mistakes. For exploration. For style. And your English does have a style, even if it's still developing.
And that style tells a story. It shows how you think. What you care about. Where you're from. What makes you unique. And that's something to be celebrated, not hidden.
Exactly. And if we really saw English this way, like a dance or a painting, we might approach our mistakes differently. Instead of saying, "I'm bad at English," we'd say, "I'm still shaping my style." Or, "This part of the movement isn't smooth yet, but it's mine."
And just like dancers record their rehearsals, or artists keep sketchbooks full of rough ideas, language learners could treat their notebooks or voice recordings the same way, not as proof of failure, but as part of the process.
Because when you look at a beginner's painting, you don't say, "This is wrong." You say, "This is where they are starting." And if they keep going, if they keep playing, their confidence grows, and their voice becomes clearer.
And that's something every learner deserves. Not just grammar corrections, but encouragement. Space to explore. Permission to not be perfect.
We don't tell someone learning guitar to stop playing because they miss a chord. So why do we tell English learners to stay silent unless they can speak perfectly?
Yeah, silence isn't safer. It just holds back all the things you could be discovering. Because the only way to find your voice is to use it. Even if it trembles. Even if it's messy.
That's where real growth happens. Not when you memorize a perfect sentence, but when you say something that matters, even if it's simple. Even if it takes a few tries.
And the amazing thing is, the more you treat English like a form of expression, the more confident you become, not because you're flawless, but because you're free.
Free to sound like yourself. Free to explore different ways of saying things. Free to enjoy the process instead of constantly judging it.
And that's when real learning starts to feel natural. Like something you want to return to. Not a punishment or a pressure, but a practice, just like an artist comes back to the canvas. Or a dancer returns to the floor.
And the more you return, the more you notice the little shifts. Oh, that phrase felt easier today. Or, I didn't translate that thought in my head before saying it. Those quiet, beautiful moments, they mean more than we realize.
Yes. They are like small brushstrokes. You don't notice each one individually, but over time, they form something. A picture of progress. A picture of you, learning to speak in your own way.
So maybe it's time to stop asking, is my English good enough, and start asking, is my English honest? Is it mine? Because that's what people connect with.
And that's what will keep you going. Not chasing some perfect accent or perfect grammar, but showing up again and again, like an artist in a studio, letting the process shape you.
Bit by bit. Word by word. Until one day, you look back and realize, you weren't just learning English. You were learning how to speak with your whole self.
And that kind of learning, the kind that touches your identity, your confidence, your creativity, it lasts. It stays with you, even when you're not actively studying.
Because it's not just about what you know. It's about what you feel when you speak. The freedom to express a thought. The trust that people will hear you, even if your words aren't perfect.
And the trust in yourself, too, that even when you pause, or hesitate, or forget a word, you'll find your way back. Just like a dancer who stumbles, then finds the rhythm again.
And the beauty is, no one expects dancers to dance without feeling. No one expects painters to always stay inside the lines. So why do we expect English learners to be rigid and perfect?
Maybe what you need isn't more pressure to perform, but more space to play. To try things. To get curious about how words feel in your mouth, how they sound in your voice.
And when you give yourself that space, that artistic freedom, English starts to become something you own. Not something you're borrowing. Not something you're faking. But something that lives inside you now.
Something that grows as you grow. Changes as you change. Something that's always evolving, just like any form of art.
So what if, instead of trying to master English, you danced with it? Painted with it? Created with it? What if you let it be human, like you?
You might notice the pressure start to ease. The fear of mistakes might soften. And suddenly, learning doesn't feel like performing anymore, it feels like living. Like discovering more ways to be yourself.
And the more you allow that, the more your English becomes a part of your identity, not as something foreign or fragile, but as something personal. Familiar. Expressive.
It might still feel awkward some days, and that's okay. Dancers still trip. Artists still smudge their lines. It's all part of the process. It's not failure, it's movement.
And that movement matters. Because it means you're showing up. You're participating in something real. Something creative. You're not just learning English, you're shaping it with your own rhythm, your own voice.
And when you start to see English that way, as a space where you're allowed to be imperfect, curious, expressive, it becomes more than a language. It becomes a kind of freedom.
A freedom to say what you mean, even if it takes a few tries. A freedom to enjoy your own progress, even if no one else sees it. A freedom to speak, not because it's perfect, but because it's you.
So maybe the question isn't, am I fluent yet? Maybe it's, am I allowing myself to enjoy the art of learning? Because English, like dance or painting, is something you grow into, not something you conquer.
And every pause, every misstep, every sentence that doesn't come out quite right, is still part of your voice. Still part of the masterpiece you're building.
So give yourself space to move. To create. To play. Let your English be something that feels alive, not perfect, just honest.
Thanks for listening today. We hope this episode gave you a new way of looking at your journey, not just as a student of English, but as an artist in your own right.
We'll be back soon with another conversation to keep you company. Until then, keep speaking, keep creating, and keep trusting the rhythm that's already inside you.
Take care, and speak like it matters. Because it does.